Hello friends, James Corbett here, CorbettReport.com, November 26, 2016, and yes, I have seen the list. For those of you asking, I've received a few dozen emails today from people asking, have you seen the list? Have you seen the list? Yes, I've seen the list. For those of you who haven't seen the list, it's referring to this. Is it propaganda or not? Your friendly neighborhood propaganda identification service since 2016. Russia is manipulating U.S. public opinion through online propaganda. We're trying to stop it. This site is a resource for people who want to understand Russian influence operations targeted at U.S. audiences, distinguish between propaganda and commercial clickbait, and help identify propaganda and push back. Whoa, amazing, wow, I'm scared. All right, so who are these dastardly Russian trolls who are influencing elections and manipulating public opinion? Well, I mean, you can watch the Samantha Bee video to find out more about that, but, you know, blah, 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 blah. Russian propaganda targets all Americans. While Russian influence operations resemble a marketing effort in some ways, only a few dozen individual outlets, sources, actually produce large amounts of original propaganda content. That content is then echoed, extended, and amplified through an immense number of secondary sites, repeaters. Both source and repeater outlets target a wide range of audiences. U.S. military veterans, Wall Street insiders and finance specialists, natural food and health enthusiasts, gold bugs, African Americans, white Americans, peace activists, religious people, 9/11 truthers, and politically active Americans across and outside the political spectrum, i.e. probably everyone who's watching this video right now. Well, actually, definitely everyone who's watching this video right now, because yes, one of the top sites listed here is CorbettReport.com. Hey, thanks for the link, guys. I'll put the link to this website in the show notes for people who are really interested, but I won't even tell you what the domain is in this video because I don't want to give them free publicity, but hey, they're giving me free publicity, so thanks guys for the link. So let's see what they say. Primary target audience interests for CorbettReport.com. Geopolitics. Well, if you had to limit it down to one area, one category, sure, I guess geopolitics is as good as any other. Review article. All right, so there's a review article about Corbett Report and how it's a Russian propaganda outlet. That's interesting. Let's see what they have to say. So this is a link to Rational Wiki, James Corbett. James Corbett is seen by some to be an indie new journalist. Others are less enamored. Okay, fair enough. He claims to analyze, deconstruct, recontextualize, and clarify Western propaganda at the Corbett Report, YouTube, and other shows and websites such as ex-FBI whistleblower Sibel Edmonds, Boiling Frogs Post, and occasional events. All right, well, that's a fairly neutral description. Yeah, okay. Reports anti-statism, truth or awareness, and atheist concepts and context. Well, okay, all right. History of oil, power, and economics, false flag events. Yeah, 9/11 conspiracy theory, Operation Gladio. Cuts through confusing disinformation propaganda to detail scandalous corruption, injustices, and exposes conspiracy. This is actually a pretty good review. I love this part. Advocating a revolution of the mind to counter cultural brainwashing dogmas to ultimately foil all centralized government's monopolistic use of violence. That's actually an excellent summation of what I'm attempting to do. So thank you to whoever wrote that. And yeah, that is what I am attempting to do. So that's no problem there. It's a wiki, so there's got to be some false information in there. There's an entire section about Newsbud, which is strange because I'm not a member of the Newsbud team. I occasionally appear on their roundtable, but I'm not actually a Newsbud.com member, so I'm not really sure what this is doing in here. But, you know, overall, this is a really quite neutral article and even positive in some respects, and I don't have any clue why they are linking to that. All right, fair enough. Very strange. All right, how about absurd pro-Russia content? Let's see what absurd pro-Russia content I'm peddling. NATO is the greatest threat to peace on the planet. James Corbett on RT. Well, NATO is the greatest threat to peace on the planet. Is there anyone who's going to disagree? Well, I'm sure there are some people who are going to disagree with that, but clearly, that is a statement that I will stand behind, not only given NATO's history, and very recent history as well, like in places like Libya, with the humanitarian love bombing that decimated the country, completely dissolved the civil society that existed there, and has left it at total ruins and chaos. But who cares, because mission accomplished. They got Gaddafi, and they got the government split up, and ISIS is moving in, and hey, it's mission accomplished for NATO, right? Also, of course, ongoing operations of their various member states that are ongoing going right now in Syria to destabilize and basically do the same thing to Libya that they're doing in Syria right now. And of course, NATO chomping at the bit, trying to get that UN resolution passed for the no-fly zone in Syria, because then, NATO will be, I'm sure, a key part of that and enforcing that, which, as we all know, is a pretty dangerous proposition. So yes, NATO is the greatest threat to peace on the planet. I don't think that's a really contentious statement, but there you go. Apparently that's absurd pro-Russia content. And then they list me as a major source of original propaganda and a minor repeater of propaganda. Well, hey, they're acknowledging that I'm a major source of original content. Well, that's that's fair. It's such a strange little entry here, such a strange list in general, and strange again that I would be included in this absurd pro-Russia category, especially because the really pro-Russian people, especially the pro-Russian people in the alternative media, hate me because I refuse to bow down to Putin and to worship at his throne. You might remember The Enemy of My Enemy, where I made an entire episode about how we shouldn't be just blindly supporting Putin because, he seems to be against Obama and therefore he's good. And I completely deconstruct that in this episode of the podcast, and the pro-Russians hate me for that. Or back in December of last year, Sibel and I were talking about the absurd pro-Russian propaganda that you see in some alt media sources. We were pointing at some of that and mocking it. So it's particularly strange to me that I would be included in this. Whatever. All right. Fair enough. This is clearly not about this is not about Russians influencing U.S. elections. This is clearly a list of alternative media sites that are thought crimes to even think about supporting, guys. This is, watch out for these sites, this dastardly Corbett report. There's so many funny things about this website, but here's probably the funniest. Obtain news from actual reporters who report to an editor and are professionally accountable for mistakes. We suggest NPR, the BBC, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, BuzzFeed, Vice, etc., and especially your local papers and local TV news channels. Support them by subscribing if you can. This is so ridiculous. It almost makes me think this was set up by some alt media site to lampoon this new fake news meme they're trying to push and all of this. It is just so over the top ridiculous. And it keeps getting more ridiculous the more you look into it. They have this related projects here on the side with, Snopes and PolitiFact and Stop Fake and sites like that you would expect to find here. Bellingcat, yes, it is a silly promoter of most of the propaganda in places like Syria. And yet, Bellingcat, that's Elliot Higgins. Go over to Elliot Higgins on Twitter. Just want to note, I hadn't heard of PropOrNot before the WP piece, the Washington Post piece, and never gave permission to them to call Bellingcat allies. So they're just linking to people, calling them related projects. Who is this? Well, of course, they're not going to tell you who it is. First of all, I've looked up the IP via Whois, and it's registered by domains by proxy, so there's no personally identifiable information about whoever registered the site. And then it just says an independent team of concerned American citizens with a wide range of backgrounds and expertise, including professional experience in computer science. So some computer programmer, statistics, public policy, and national security affairs. We are currently volunteering time and skills to identify propaganda, particularly Russian propaganda, targeting a U.S. audience. Blah, blah, blah. Strange. Just silly. Cartoonish, even. Again, this is just a cartoon. But, hey, it's been picked up by the Washington Post. Russian propaganda effort helped spread fake news during election. Experts say. And I've ranted a few times in the podcast history about that use of the word experts in headlines to tell you what you should believe. Just every journalistic cliche in the book. And all they really have in here, another group called PropOrNot, a nonpartisan collection of researchers with foreign policy, military. Where are they getting that? That wasn't in this list that they have on the website, so I don't know where they're getting that. And technology backgrounds plan to release its own findings Friday, showing the startling reach and effectiveness of Russian propaganda campaigns. And that's pretty much it. I mean, and plus, keep in mind the Washington Post, especially, the website these days is BuzzFeed, basically. They just put out 1,000 articles a day, just throw everything at the wall with ridiculous clickbaity headlines. That is the Washington Post online output at this point. So the fact that it makes it onto the Washington Post website really doesn't mean anything. So I don't know. I think people are maybe making more out of this than what it's worth. It really is a joke at this point. And I mean, another example of how much of a joke it is, they point to this Reddit subreddit they've created called PropOrNot, where you can go to discuss the Russian propaganda, and you get things like this. Why is this article flagged as Russian propaganda? The only information source is webarchives.org. It is hard to promote this when it flags things like this. So even people who apparently are sympathetic to this idea of Russian propaganda everywhere are saying, why are you linking to things like this? It has nothing to do with Russian propaganda. You have people playing around. Somethingawful.com is an evil website that reliably echoes Russian propaganda. I'm not sure why this site, nutritionfacts.org, is on the list. And if you click through to Nutrition Facts, if you haven't been there, it's just a kind of alt medicine kind of site, promoting various natural cures and things. All right. Why is it on this list? And if you click through to the discussion, because any site that is not 100% pro-GMO poison is obviously Russian propaganda. And sarcasm. If anything, the fact that this site is on the list exposes who's really behind this PropOrNot nonsense. The same globalist idiots who are apparently so desperate they're resorting to pathetic efforts such as this. I wonder if they realize that this and other censorship efforts will only cement the destruction of so-called mainstream media, and, worse for them, accelerate the development of communication alternatives that are vastly superior to today's internet and virtually impervious to any centralized control. Amen. On that point, I say thanks, PropOrNot, for being an important catalyst for launching the next generation of communication technology. It's such a great point, such a very important point, because certainly I do agree that this is the catalyst for people to stop. Obviously turn away from these stupid mainstream mouthpiece repeater sites, but also to question the technologies and the platforms that we're interacting on at all, like Reddit, which, by the way, I'll put a link in the show notes in case people haven't seen that the CEO of Reddit went in to the Donald subreddit and started editing people's comments for a laugh. It was just a joke, but editing them himself and not leaving a trace, and then he comes out and admits it, which there's so many implications to that. I'll leave a link to that, but that's just the latest in the whole Reddit drama that's going on right now. So craziness happening, and people tend to think that Reddit and Facebook and Twitter and what have you, well, they'll always be here. They're the giants. They'll never, just like MySpace. No, when platforms start being detrimental to their user base, the user base will leave. That is what the internet is. So this is just ridiculous to me that they're throwing out this kind of just silliness and they're expecting it to stick. Now, the only thing that is even interesting to me about all of this, let alone concerning, is the fact not this list and not this fake news list that some college professor put together that's getting all the mainstream attention. It's the fact that lists like this, I don't imagine this list in particular, but lists like this will certainly be used to form the censorship lists that Facebook and Google and other places are talking about right now. So that is where the rubber meets the road, and that is where the fight really begins, when and if those censorship lists start coming through, and we'll start to see, obviously things like this will have an effect on shaping that. So that's where things really start to get interesting. But again, the technology is changing from underneath them, and I don't think they appreciate that very well. But then again, they didn't appreciate anything about the alternative media and its influence until suddenly we ate their lunch over the last several months. And, they're struggling to play catch-up right now. So, Corbett Report, major propaganda purveyor, thank you for being here and sharing it with me. And it's just, it's ridiculous. But I don't feel like I need to make a video talking about this new fake news meme and showing that the MSM is the fake news, because that's, in a way, that's been the core message of the Corbett Report since its inception. More so even than I think geopolitics. The fundamental message of the Corbett Report is the mainstream media are liars and they've lied to you your entire life. And that's reflected in the fact that in this word cloud here, if you go and you click on media. You'll get all the media related posts that I've done, and you could scroll through and scroll through and scroll through probably for days. There's many pages of posts here about the MSM. I'll try to cull the best, say, 5 videos or reports that I think you should be sending out right now to counter this fake news meme, or more accurately, to just do a jujitsu move and to show that, no, the fake news is the MSM. Wake up, guys. So I'll throw maybe, serial lies need to be exposed. That's a pretty good one. Videos like that you can send around to people that you know who are interested in this while they're trying to make it a trending news story. Oh, the fake news meme. Let's show them what fake news really is. So if you guys can help out with that, that would be really helpful, and I appreciate that. So here I am, just continuing to do what I do, CorbettReport.com, and I'm just laughing at nonsense like this and going to continue doing the work that I do, and we'll just keep plowing ahead together. Thank you all out there for your support, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again real soon.